the show. Thank you for doing this.
Our pleasure.
Um, yeah, thanks. And where are you guys checking in from? Gautam, where are you? Are you home? Are you at the office?
I'm home, and I made it a point to be home because while I suck and I get very depressed staying home too long, I thought I should make it a point and have a decent background behind me.
Puneet, what about you?
My background is ambiguous. I'm home. Yeah, I was better off doing this from home. Yeah.
Okay. I thought I'd give you a segue into explaining what your office is, where your office is, and how you actually
We didn't
meet
bite.
people. So why don't you tell us where your office is and where we actually have our meetings when we meet?
So, officially, our office is in Gurgaon, but I think over the past few years, our inner lazy selves have come out. So, being based in Delhi, we've made it to the office a grand total of 0 times in the past more than 0 months. So, our office where we conduct our meetings, at least with you, Rajat, is either in Khan Market or Vasant Vihar, uh, wherever we can find some snobbish coffee for ourselves.
Okay, fantastic. Which leads me to the question. So what do you guys do? And tell us about Chanakya VC.
So I'll give you a little background on how we came to be here. Puneet and I both had our professional careers prior to this. Puneet worked in the automotive space. I worked in the tech space. I was based in Europe, back in India. Started in the angel investing space in 2009 when I had significantly less gray hair and probably significantly more energy than I do now. Did that for about a decade. 2020, both of us were back, and I leave Puneet to fill in his bit about the journey. And we figured, we do what we'd already been doing in a slightly more organized way with having some sort of accountability to somebody else, each other in this case. So we set up Chanakya VC. The idea here uh, has also evolved a little bit with time. So what we try and do is find high potential founders working in tech, um, and sort of help them grow as much as we can. We're looking for, I mean, we try and come in as early as possible. We don't put in any criteria that you must have this, must have that. As long as the founders are doing something interesting, something that we understand, and they're interesting people, we're usually on board.
Got it. Puneet, you want
So
to add to
my
that?
my experience has been in the automotive and the financial services space. It was back in 2016 I became by chance an LP in another micro VC fund, and yeah, so that's how my journey in this industry began. And I think it was like Gautam said in 2020, how we set this up, and yeah.
Super. Gautam, you mentioned something about increased accountability by setting up something formal. That is still at its minimal level, isn't it? Given what Chanakya VC does and how it's structured.
I'll bite the bullet now that you've asked me.
Hmm.
Yes, accountability is minimal. So we don't have any LPs in the fund apart from the two of us, but accountability is there. That since there is another GP who's looking over what I'm doing, and often there to sort of steady the ship and steady my hand. That's the level of accountability we have. So often you'll notice that. I might go off on a tangent, and there will be the steady hand of Puneet behind me to say, "Wait, let's just think about this." And that's the kind of accountability that we probably have.
So you guys formally started late 2019, early 2020, right? What's
Yeah.
the journey been like? Tell us the process. How do you source? How do you meet founders? How do you evaluate them? What's been the four investments that you've done up till now, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
what's been unique to those investments? What's helped you make that decision?
So I think that's a all-encompassing question because I think I certainly hope over the past 4 years we've also sort of evolved, and the thought processes we had back then aren't the ones we have now. So consistent and across the board has been that our belief that the founders that we have tried to work with are genuinely exceptional and high potential. So none of them are here, so it's fine. Nobody's egos are being bruised.
Mm.
Um, so we're fairly consistent on that. Viewpoints have changed a little bit in that, we had a lot more stricter guidelines, about post revenue, post product, etc., etc. We've let those down, and we've sort of found new ones. So we're very happy to now come in pre revenue, pre product also. So that has changed. But consistent in our opinion that, it's about finding the right founders. One thing that we have seen honestly is we might take a bet on a particular business model, a particular product, when we come in, but by the time, a couple of years pass, a couple of funding rounds come and go, business models, products have also changed. So, having taking a bet on a particular product at our stage, was not a long-term view, because the product
Mm.
doesn't stay that long, right? I mean, everybody, we had a particular, our first investment and second investment, the product has changed a little bit, in the, subsequent years. So if we had been very, iron tight on saying, no, this is the product, this is what we're betting on, we'd have something entirely different on our hands now. So we are fairly comfortable now, not saying that, we'll put this peg down, that this is exactly what we're betting on. What we're betting on or hoping, is that the founders are, I wouldn't use the word jugadu enough, but resourceful enough to sort of find their way across the obstacles that life and business throws at them.
Super. So, Puneet, in our discussion thus far, we've sort of assumed that we know what the other person is saying, but for the wider audience, would you explain what stage Chanakya comes in, and what do you mean by high potential founders? Like that's an enigma wrapped in a riddle for a
I
lot of
also want to
people.
know the answer to this question.
So just like Gautam said, back when we started, we had certain guidelines, and everything's been broken. All rules have been broken. So we like to come in early. I say early as in, um, even pre-product, or MVP or pre-product. We're open to all. We're open to looking at everything, because we come in so early. There are few things that excite us more than others. So so between Gautam and I, fintech is something that works for both of us. I have some professional experience in the financial services side. uh, Gautam the is a no, all out and out techie. So that's something that has, for it wasn't intended that way, but it has over a period of time, been the sweet spot for us.
And to the second part of the question,
I
what's a
think I missed the second part.
what's a high potential founder to you? What does it mean?
So, a high potential founder is someone we believe has great academic credentials. So, the top 1 percentile schools, engineering, whatever. Also, someone we think, like Gautam said, is resourceful, is adaptable to changes, is someone who we feel has the ability to understand the market, not just the business environment, but say the funding environment, and has the ability to potentially raise the business to a certain level, to raise funds and
Okay.
then scale the business. Yeah.
Super. So those are traits. Maybe Gautam, you can tell us about how those traits exhibit. What are you actually testing for? Because if that's a trait that you're searching for, how does that finally manifest within the behavior of the founder, the past experience of the founder? For instance, Puneet said a top tier college, top tier school, right? At some level, that sounds elitist, but I know that what most people are looking for is demonstrated behavior in the past.
Exactly,
So,
exactly. So
right?
that's exactly it, right? So
Hmm.
the problem with our line of work is that there's a lot of data, inflow of information, right? And since ours is a very small fund, there's just the two of us. It's virtually impossible for us to give everything equal weightage, right? So I mean, if there's 10, 20 pitches coming in a day, we don't have the mental bandwidth to give 20 of them equal amount of time. It's just physically impossible. So and everybody, I mean, everybody ends up doing it, right? I mean, if you see two alleys in front of you, one is well lit, one is dark, you will automatically go towards the one that's well lit. So these are all sort of, cognitive shorthand for doing things. So while, a good school is shorthand for assuming that the guy or girl has demonstrated, like you said, some success in the past. It's not a deal breaker. It's just it makes evaluation easier. Similarly, if they've worked in a successful startup before, so you get a feel that right, they've got a understanding of how this business is played, right? I mean, they've seen how funding might have been raised in the past, etc. None of them are deal breakers. It's just it makes evaluation a little bit easier for us. And this is, for for lack of a better word, the cold and hard truth of raising venture capital. I mean, maybe a lot of people won't mention it, but deep down inside, that's how a lot of it does work. Everybody has more data in front of them than they can evaluate judiciously. So everybody sort of finding these shorthands. Practically, what we're ending up looking for is somebody who's onto an idea that they can execute. That's what we're trying to find, right? The idea has to be good. The idea will change. So I mean, it's a certainly a vague concept, but they have to have an idea and perseverance to pursue it through the ups and downs that might come their way, and the resourcefulness to be able to overcome the obstacles. How how we sort of gauge that is we don't have a playbook, so it manifests in different ways, right? I mean, in a particular founder, and again, he's not on the call, so I wouldn't mention, wouldn't massage any egos, but having gone through varied life experiences and found something that stuck through it, is an interesting trait.
Super. So again, no founders who are here, but how did you meet this last founder that you were uh, discussing? Because you tell it better than I do, sir.
Obviously. How can one massage one's own ego? So it's good you asked me this. It gives me an opportunity to use my most favorite word in the English language dictionary, which is serendipitous. Um, we had a
Hmm.
serendipitous meeting.
Oh,
Um,
thank God.
so,
That word is still relatively harmless.
so Puneet and I were at an event hosted by amongst the larger cloud service providers. We won't name names. And while we were there, so how, I mean, just for context sake, how these events typically work is there's a panel, a conversation happening inside, and usually outside there's some networking happening. And networking is usually happening during the panel, sometimes at the end of it, after it, and there's drinks and food as well. So I think it was towards the end of one of the panels. I think I started walking out, and I saw this gentleman at the bar holding a whiskey. In my mind, it was sort of a Gandalf meets New York prep type person, um, who was having a few conversations here and there with a myriad variety of folks, and holding his glass like this, with which some amount of disdain for the whiskey he had. So I figured let's go say hello, and that happened to be you. So that's how we met. Um, I think the so after I had a initial conversation with you, um, I went to Puneet and said I know I've met somebody and we should definitely talk to him. Again, nobody's egos are being massaged here, but
You
so
will tell us the
so
why.
we met you there. Uh,
What caught your
the
attention?
the second so after we had an interesting conversation with you, we went back and we said, so we'll grab a coffee. Who knew you were a coffee snob, but as it turned out you were. So we had a good cup of coffee the next time we met you again. When we left, the two of us were having a conversation that here is a quote unquote high potential founder, which like I said, so we don't have a, and I wish we did have a checklist to say yes, these, if you do these four things, you're high potential. We don't have that. It's always
Hmm.
manifested in ways that we hadn't foreseen before. Every founder we've liked has been completely different from the other founders we've liked. Yet they've all, I mean, we all sincerely believe that they're all high potential. So, but having had that second cup of coffee, we were fairly certain we wanted to do work with you, whatever it, in whatever shape or form it came, was for destiny.
Super. Puneet, do you expect to have a playbook at the end of this?
No, no,
No?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Then maybe there's a connected distinct response to this as well. Is the future for Chanakya just the two of you? The foreseeable future, at least?
The foreseeable future, yes. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. Uh, but depends on the definition of foreseeable future. If it's a until stretch it for a couple of years, perhaps. Beyond that, yeah,
Yeah, beyond
we'll
that, who
see.
knows? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Fantastic. You mentioned earlier that fintech is an area of overlap of interest for both of you, right? What's interesting about fintech, and especially fintech in India in 2023?
Gautam, you
Either
want
one
to
of you
take
can
it?
take.
Oh, I'll take that. So fintech, like, I mean, like Puneet said, is interesting for us. Puneet has a steady background in financial services. I worked in tech, so it ends up being a sweet spot in our sort of, the Venn diagram of what we understand is it's a good sweet spot for us. Beyond that, at a more generic level, I think fintech is one of those places that, at least in India, is sort of an evergreen opportunity. I mean, there's so much that can be done here. So much has already been done. So many foundations have been laid for really big things that should be done still. So regardless of market cycles, we do believe that fintech is going to be a long-lasting sort of a field to play in. So we are very happy that our understanding and this sector is there. The other benefit is that there is a lot of governmental push and regulation that sort of works in tandem. There's a push and pull kind of thing happening. So you'll find that government regulation comes in, reins in a lot of activity in the BNPL, etc. kind of spaces. But things like the Bharat Stack, India Stack come in and really sow seeds for a lot of opportunity. So I think there's a lot of, I mean, particularly in our case, a lot of government-induced tailwinds that will exist for the next decade plus. So it's a really interesting place to be. And we genuinely see it'll be one of those few places that will be least affected by market cycles in India specifically.
Got it. Um, what is so Plutus one is we've clearly received your check, so it's safe now to have the more critical discussions. What do you think are the challenges and what are your expectations? So, what are the headwinds for Plutus One and what are your expectations as to what Plutus One could be if you were to think of it as a successful investment, say a year, 2 years, 5 years from
So I think what initially the conversation Puneet and I had initially was very much on the fact that the pitch is huge, right? It the opportunity for that pitch is massive. Bringing digital financial inclusion for middle India really means that you're looking at, at the grand scheme of things, like sub a billion people. So that market space is is huge. So that's fantastic. It's, again, like I said, it's one of the places where the government will be blowing winds in your direction, not the other way around, right? So I mean, there are some other sectors, without naming names, where there'll be a lot of, whether you're against the government, you're facing government regulations against you. Whereas here, you're going to have the government and its entire financial backing and its entire regulatory backing sort of going in your favor, in your direction.
now.
So apart from the altruistic, and since our job is capitalistic, even if I ignore the altruistic angle here, it's the opportunity is massive. Uh, so that was a huge plus for us. Again, founder potential is already covered off. I think so. So with that aim, the opportunity is massive. The opportunity is something that can have many verticals, right? So whether you want to go into just getting banking to a lot of people, when you get credit to a lot of people, get savings to a lot of people, there's so many different verticals that you can build on top of, that it's very difficult to even put a Sam, Tom, whatever it is on this, which is a great start for a business.
What would be success 5 years from
What would be our success, or what would be Plutus's success? Let me answer both then. Pluto's success, like you said, is digital financial inclusion for Middle India, right? Being cred for
now?
Middle India, being providing financial services to the next 400, 500 million people. For us, it'll be finding a few key metrics and showing a lot of growth for you to raise a couple of big rounds from there, which will then set you up for success for your 400, 500 million user base. That'll be our definition of success.
Super. And Puneet, what challenges do you foresee?
I got off easy.
Uh, huh?
Yeah,
got
I
off
come for all
easy.
the pessimistic stuff to Puneet.
Uh,
Uh, so, I mean, just to add to what Gautam has just said, so from the government push angle, the fact that RBI now has a financial inclusion index, which did not exist, until a decade ago. That itself shows the intent on the side of the lawmakers. Also, I think I was reading about there are some G20 financial inclusion goals as well. Apparently, this ties the RBI's financial index, also inclusion index, also ties with the G20 goals. Yeah, in terms of challenges, well, there is the very obvious challenge of capital that we hope is the least of your concerns.
And this is the good thing about getting good investors. I still have to
Yes.
find some, but this is the good thing about getting good investors. It becomes their problem, not mine.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah, but go on.
Well, I mean, this sustained push from the government has to be there. Also, I mean, I honestly I don't see too many challenges, other than say working with the banks or working with the smaller cooperatives or the scheduled banks, or it's basically digitizing their, or you know their customers, the banks that probably they lack the digital infrastructure to offer certain services to their customers. I see that as a challenge, and and that's the challenge I think with Bluetooth, and we're trying to overcome.
Hmm. I think, so personally speaking, I think a large part of this is behavior change because you're working with a set of customers. When you talk about middle India, right, you're working with a set of customers who could be NTD, could be NTC. Getting them to change behavior to actually use digital platforms for a lot of the function that they've been used to paying in cash for, standing in line for, interfacing with the bank for. Those are big challenges, especially at scale.
do you think
So,
that's a generational shift also that's happening? That somebody
so
who's
I think the
under
good thing here,
20, 25.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the market in Middle India. So there's this very nice newsletter that I can't do justice because I can't remember its name right now. But there's a very nice newsletter which talks about how India 2.0 and India 2.1, the growth is almost 100% from the 25 to 35-year-olds who are trying to figure out opportunities online, who are trying to use apps to get at whether it's shopping, whether it's content consumption, whether it's access to credit. Everybody is trying to use apps to get this. I think there is a large segment of people in the 55 plus age range who will benefit from these things, but they're not going to be the primary adopters within their families. It's going to be inherited adoption from some of the younger members of their families. So even now, we see that even within credit cards, a lot of the usage is actually happening because the children within a family, and keep in mind that for public sector banks, an account on average services 3.5 people in a family. Right? So where the
Okay.
benefits to them are coming from is because the discovery is being done by the child in the household, and then the parents are being educated about this feature also exists in your card. This app can also do this and can do that. That's a definite sort of adoption channel. Yeah, yeah,
Especially
it's
in the
definitely an
demographic
age thing.
that we're looking at, that'll probably be
Hmm.
a huge push
We
forward,
think
make
so.
things a lot easier.
Yes, we think so. Fantastic. So, guys, thank you for doing this. But before I let you go, what's been, and definitely not to massage any egos in, what's been the most irritating thing about working uh, with me and with Plutus
Wow. See, this is the
That's
kind
your
of question
chance.
should give us a
That's
heads
your
up
chance,
about.
Gautam.
One? I definitely wanted to leave you with that.
So I'll give you two. I'll give you why should you only
Oh,
have one, right? So
okay.
let's give you two. I
Just
think
two then. Hmm.
for one, your insistence on having an office that is not that's not in Delhi as in Noida. That's definitely been an annoyance.
You
Um,
should be you should be kicked about it, given the metrics that we give you on office productivity and leanness. But okay,
so you asked
I'll
me to be
take that.
honest. You
Yeah,
asked me
yeah,
to be honest.
yeah, yeah.
and
What's number two?
and the second one is that despite being a man of varied interests, you know, coffee, fragrances, etc. You have yet to introduce us to some nice coffees or fragrances. So I mean, really, ROI to zero nikla abhi tak hamare liye. It's just an utter shit show.
uh, okay, that's I think that's this is coming out of my mouth,
Bleach.
but that's very gracious of you, Gautam. All things considered. But Puneet, something more frank, something more actually
More
more this
frank.
thing, more frank. Yeah,
No, also your insistence on having whiskey, since I'm the only non
No,
whiskey
we're
drinker in the.
very good with whisky. We're very good with whisky.
yeah.
Look, I'm judging
Okay.
you also, Gautam, now on your
As
whiskey,
a Punjabi boy who lives
fake
in Delhi,
Punjabi whiskey
there's just
snobbery.
I had no choice. I have no choice.
Fantastic. Gents, thank you so much for your time.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
This has been great. We haven't caught up in a while. We should, but
Over whiskey,
chalo, at least
obviously.
we'll take a virtual. Right. Thank you so much.
Our
Bye
pleasure.
bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Our
Alrighty.
pleasure.